The Hyundai Kona is available in a number of different configurations. You can have it as an EV, or you can have it as just a regular, naturally aspirated subcompact SUV, or you can have it like this in the N configuration, the hot version. But what if you wanted to still get the sort of SUV-ness out of this car and use it for practical reasons? How fuel efficient will it be on the highway? Today, we're going to find out. This is Chris here with Daily Motor, and today we've got the real-world highway fuel economy test on the 2022 Hyundai Kona N. Before we get started, let's hop out and take a look at what we're working with. I have such a soft spot for Hyundai N cars. They're so much fun to drive, and they offer that split personality that we love in hot hatches and hot compacts. This one is allegedly an SUV. They call it one. It isn't really an SUV in my book. It's really just kind of like a tall hot hatch, a tall version of the Veloster N, if you will. And they've just done such a great job with this car. I'm excited to see how efficient it is on the highway, to see if it ties in that whole philosophy of the hot hatchback. It is a little bit bigger, it's a little bit heavier, so it probably won't be as efficient as the Veloster N, but we'll go ahead and we'll find out for sure today and see what this thing is really capable of. It's going to be hard for me to drive this in eco mode. I've been rolling around in N custom mode all week with the loud exhaust on, but right now we are chilling just in eco mode. So anyways though, why do we do this test? Well, the EPA's fuel economy test, which gives this Hyundai Kona N 27 MPG on the highway, only averages 48 miles per hour, and we know that some people like to take their cars on actual road trips. So what we do is we go out 50 miles and back 50 miles, averaging 70 miles per hour for a more real world figure. A couple things worth noting for today's test. Outside temperature is 80 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to be running the climate control inside the cabin at 73 degrees auto for the entire test. Tire pressures have been filled up to 35 and 37 PSI cold, which is their factory door placard indicated rating. And as you can see here, we just got the low fuel light. It gives you the option to search for a gas station. Let's actually see what that does. Okay, so it's giving me gas stations that are 4 miles away, but I'm going to one that's about 100 yards away right up here. So thank you, Hyundai, but no thank you. And speaking of that, we'll also be using the same gas pump both times, using the same 3-click filling method to get the most accurate results possible. All right, let's go ahead and grab our first fill. And 11.8 gallons in there for our first fill. We were very close to empty. This thing only has a 13-gallon tank, so we had about a gallon of gas left in the tank. 11.8 gallons of premium fuel in there, because that is what Hyundai recommends, and it is what the EPA tested this car on, so we want to be consistent with that today for our test. So a couple of different drive modes on the Hyundai Kona N. Today, of course, we'll be running in eco mode, but we also have normal, sport, and snow. Additionally, on this Kona N, we have N and N custom mode as well. So you can personalize your N mode. N is like the super sporty race mode. If you were to call it just a very generalized term, I would call it race mode. But we'll be driving nice and carefully today in eco mode. We'll just be chilling here. Anyways though, the purpose of this test is not to hypermile. I'm simply going to merge on the highway, set the cruise control to a GPS indicated 72 miles per hour, and just drive like any normal person would. I won't be doing any drafting or any crazy eco-friendly moves. We're just going to get on the highway and we're going to chill. And there's 72. It's a good day because we're in a Hyundai, which means I can turn on my steering assist, and this will help a lot with the driving. And under first highway impressions, I've got to say I'm pretty impressed with how the Kona N is on the highway. You know, this is a pretty raw and stiff vehicle. When you're in N performance mode, this thing feels like you're driving a Focus RS. It is absolutely brutally stiff. And it's still a little bit stiff here when you're in the most comfortable setting, but it's not super stiff. When you're driving a Focus RS, it's kind of stiff no matter what suspension setting you're in. You know, we got to dodge this little piece of tread there on the highway. But yeah, this thing settles down pretty nicely, and with all of the nice Hyundai driver aids, I'm expecting this to be a pretty smooth journey. The seats themselves are really nice. They're pretty squishy and comfortable. The steering wheel is really nice. Everything you touch in here is quite nice. Or, well, I should say everything you touch most of the time. So the seats and the steering wheel, they're quite nice materials. Otherwise, the interior is kind of cheap, but it doesn't really rattle, so that's a good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and settle in here and get to driving, and I'll catch up with you guys here in about 95 or so miles. Finishing up our drive here in the Hyundai Kona N, and other than having to switch our route up for an accident that happened about a mile in front of me, it's been a pretty good drive. I mean, I'm quite comfortable in this thing. My butt and back are starting to get a little bit sore, but I think that's because the route that we took today, it's a little bit bumpier, and the suspension on this car is not the most forgiving. But I will say I really have enjoyed having the steering assist. We enjoy this on every Hyundai. It really helps you take a lot of the stress off of the highway driving. It keeps you in the lane very nicely, better than most cheaper systems. And other than that, I mean, it's just been a really nice ride. The sound system's not too bad. If you want to learn more about the sound system, I'll make sure to link Charlie's video down below with the full review on this Harman Kardon system. But otherwise, no real complaints. The absence of adaptive cruise is a little bit iffy, but the good thing is the cruise control, it's really easy to control, and this car has plenty of torque to where it doesn't really have to shift out of 8th gear. You can just keep it in 8th gear, and it can go from 60 to 70 miles an hour with no real problems. So that's about it, honestly. Road noise, of course you're going to have a little bit of that, as well as wind noise, but really it's been a lot better than I expected from a full-on N car. So I'm going to finish up the last few miles of my trip here, and I will talk to you guys once I have brimmed the tank on the Kona N. And 2.616 gallons in there for our final fill. So today's journey was 99.04 miles. Divide that by the 2.616 gallons of petrol that we used for today's trip. Gives us a total of 37.8 MPG. Now, right at the end, the car was reading out about 34. This may be a little bit optimistic, but it is the readout that we got from our math using the same pump and the same method. So for today's trip, we are going to award this Kona N with 37 MPG. That is super impressive, but regardless of what you decide to trust the car's computer or our math, it's still a very impressive number considering this car is rated at 27 MPG by the EPA. You can see that it's quite a bit more efficient at 70 miles per hour. So that is a good thing. I always like when the N cars succeed in testing because I really, really do quite enjoy them. And I would certainly recommend that you buy one so they keep making them. They just killed the Veloster N, so we got to make sure they keep the Kona N and the Elantra N around for years to come. Cool. So let's take this number, 37.85, and multiply that by 13.2, as it is the size of our fuel tank. And that gives us 490 miles of effective highway cruising range, almost 500, not quite, but anything around 500, I like to say, is pretty dang good. It's kind of a small tank on this car, but for being as efficient as it is, this really makes up for it, and it gives you nearly 500 miles of highway cruising range. So there you go. Just about 37 MPG, just about 500 miles of highway cruising range. So thank you all so much for watching. That'll wrap it up for us today. If you'd like to see more on the Hyundai Kona N, we will have links in the description to a full review as well as a sound system test and an infotainment review on this car. So thank you all so much for watching. This has been Chris here with Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.